The Templars were an order of monks given sacred duty to protect pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land. But no, this couldn't be any further from the truth. The Templars were a secret organization bent on seizing control of humanity in the name of uplifting their condition and inaugurating lasting world peace. It might sound like a lofty goal for a secret organization, but for the Templars, nothing is too great a cost for the eventual realization of their dream. And they have proven it time and time again over the millennia. So who are the Templars? What are their goals? And how do they intend to achieve them? Let's find out. The Templar Order, also known as the Order of the Knights Templar, or the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ, and the Temple of Solomon, is a secret transnational organization which for thousands of years has striven to seize control of humanity in the name of uplifting their condition and inaugurating lasting world peace. Their vision of a perfect global society, which they term the New World Order, is one which entails a world government under their dominion, whether directly imposed or in the form of a shadow regime manipulating states and society from behind the scenes. In this light, the Templars have frequently infiltrated state governments throughout history to position themselves in the central loci and highest echelons of power, operating as a deep state. They are commonly united in the classical realist beliefs of the inherent depravity of human nature and the privileging of security as a metric for peace, and these assumptions buttress their conviction that true peace can only be achieved when humanity is shepherded by a society of enlightened individuals. In their eyes, a hallmark of Templar methodology has been the notion that no cost is too great for the eventual realization of their grand project, and there are no means that cannot be justified by the nobility of their end dream. This has translated into a penchant for orchestrating complex political crises on a monumental, at times global, scale as a means of securing their long-term objectives, and alongside this the pursuit of the pieces of Eden and other relics left behind by the ancient Isu, which can grant power over other humans. Historically, there have also frequently been Templars who exploited their membership to consolidate power and wealth for their own self-interests rather than advancing their collective mission, as was the most infamous case of the Borgia family. While the Templar Order is one and the same with the Knights Templar of the Crusades, their history stretches far further back to at least the formation of the Order of the Ancients by the Egyptian pharaoh Smenkhkare. Their reorganization as a monastic Christian military order by Bernard de Clairvaux and Hugues de Payens was a disguise for their operations, and lasted until their purge in the 13th century by King Philip IV of France, whereupon they withdrew into the shadows and feigned extinction. By then, the name Templar had cemented itself for their organization. Since the internal revolution of Grand Master François Thomas Germain, the Templar focus has shifted from puppeteering nobles and aristocracy to socio-economic control through capitalism, a plan that led to the founding of the multinational conglomerate Abstergo Industries in the 20th century as their new public front. Templars maintain that the dissolution of national boundaries and the unification of humanity under one banner is the logical next step in human evolution, and that the current era of disunity and competition between sovereign states is one that must be superseded. As such, they see the creation of a world government as a means to ensure security for all people by superseding the sovereignty of individual nation-states. And from this platform, they believe that peace can finally be secured and maintained. Towards this objective, they have historically worked to promote conflict and war, believing that the aftermath of such upheaval will serve as a crucible for forging a new world order. Furthermore, in line with this belief, Templars tend to view disease outbreaks and environmental disasters as opportunities to eliminate the weak and usher in their utopian dream more quickly. Owing to their opprobrium of human agency, Templars have a long record of relying on coercive measures, indiscriminate political violence, and state terror as tools to advance their ends, and this catalyzed the formation of the Hidden Ones at the end of Ptolemaic rule. The emergence of the Hidden Ones, whose evolution into the assassins in the Crusades, paralleled that of the Templars, precipitated a millennia-long shadow war that has persisted to this day. Throughout the millennia that they have existed, the Templars have maintained that they are unified by a vision of perpetual peace for all humanity, making it their mission to create perfect order in a chaotic world of ceaseless bloodshed, petty strife, and corruption. For the most ardent believers of this dream, it is a noble cause in which they are altruistically taking upon the burden to save humanity from itself. Underlying this sentiment is the wholehearted conviction that guidance by individuals wiser than most is the only solution by which humans' natural impulses for error can be stymied and restrained. Templars believe that they are those individuals who have arrived at the same insight about humanity's intrinsic depravity, a realization which they assume to be an absolute truth of reality. Ever since the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, Templars have made it their priority to recover the lost knowledge contained within its walls, seeking to weaponize the Isu discoveries for their own ends, particularly the Pieces of Eden. To this day, the pieces remain key artifacts of Templar interest, as they can be used to influence the minds of others, bending them to Templar ideology, or even turning them against their own kind. The Templars first came into prominence during the Crusades, a series of religious wars sanctioned by the Latin Church in the medieval period, with the goal of reclaiming the Holy Land, specifically the city of Jerusalem, from Muslim rule. Although not the first to conceive of such holy wars, the fervor and commitment of the European Christians to the endeavor would mark a radical departure from earlier conflicts. It began in response to the appeal from the Byzantine Emperor Alexios Komnenos for military aid against the encroaching Seljuk Turks. Pope Urban II issued the call to arms on November 1095 during the Council of Clermont. His impassioned speech galvanized European Christendom, promising God's favor and absolution of sins for those who participated. Within months, an army of some 40,000 men assembled. The First Crusade, 1096-99, resulted in the establishment of several Crusader states in the Levant, including the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Though plagued by internal divisions, the kingdom endured for nearly 2 centuries. Meanwhile, the Second Crusade, 1147-49, primarily a response to the fall of the county of Edessa, proved less successful. Despite initial victories, the Crusaders were ultimately defeated by the forces of Zengi, the Atabeg of Mosul. The Third Crusade, 1189-92, saw the renowned medieval warriors Richard the Lionheart, Philip II of France, and Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa clash against Saladin, the Muslim leader who had conquered Jerusalem. Though unsuccessful in retaking the city, the Crusaders did manage to negotiate a treaty granting European Christians access to the Holy Land. The Children's Crusade of 1212, though not sanctioned by the Church, demonstrated the enduring appeal of the Crusades. Led by the shepherd Stephen of Cloyes, thousands of European children set out for the Holy Land, though most perished from exposure or were sold into slavery. Later Crusades increasingly focused on the capture of the Holy City itself. The Fourth Crusade, 1202-04, resulted in the sack of Zara and Constantinople, marking a significant point of tension between the Eastern and Western Church. The Fifth Crusade, 1217-21, saw limited success against the Ayyubid dynasty, culminating in the siege of Damietta. As the medieval period waned, the momentum for Crusades declined. However, the spirit of the Crusades continued to resonate, particularly in England, where the idea of a holy war became intertwined with English identity. During the 16th century, Protestant leaders such as Martin Luther endorsed the concept of a Christian nation engaged in a divine mission. In the 18th century, Enlightenment thinkers like Montesquieu and Voltaire criticized the Crusades as a manifestation of religious intolerance and fanaticism. Yet the Crusades continued to captivate the popular imagination. Writers like Sir Walter Scott romanticized the medieval warrior ethos, influencing the emergence of the Order of St. John, a fraternal organization that perpetuated the legacy of the Crusades. By the 19th century, the Crusades had become a pivotal part of European historiography, often portrayed as a heroic struggle against overwhelming odds. Scholars like Sir Stephen Runciman offered comprehensive histories of the Crusades, emphasizing both their grandeur and tragic flaws. In contemporary times, the Crusades remain a subject of intense historical scrutiny and debate. Historians continue to grapple with assessing the Crusades' impact on medieval society, while contemporary discussions surrounding religious fundamentalism often invoke the Crusades as a cautionary tale. So, what do you think about the Templar? Let me know in the comments below. See you in the next video.